Hi everybody, it's Tanya from the Quilters Market, and today we have a wonderful quilt, and it is a pretty simple project. It is our American flag project. So what you'll do is you'll buy one of our little kits. This is the kit here. The kit comes with everything you need to make the flag. It also includes the panels of the 10 sisters and the pattern and layout that's necessary. I'm going to kind of walk you through how we put this project together. Let's get started. So first we're going to unpack our little wrapping, and you're going to find there are these 10 sister panel sheets. You will have 2 of them. Here I only have pictured 1. We have a bumpy or rough side, and then we have a smooth side. The way that you'll tell the difference between the bumpy side and the smooth side is the smooth side you can really see the grid lines and the numbers. On the bumpy side you can see it transposed on the background, but it's not as clear as it is. So if you start to set everything on this side, that is the wrong side. This is going to be the right side. Okay? With that said, we're going to put this aside, and we're going to start by cutting our fabric. So what we need is we need 2.5-inch squares of blue, white, and red fabric. And so these are our 2.5-inch squares. And so I'm going to show you how to cut these really easily. We use this product called a stripology ruler. And the stripology ruler is so cool because you can cut out strips in no time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my fabric up so that the little fold here is very nice and even with the salvage of the fabric, because I don't want any of the salvage to be part of my 2.5-inch squares. So I'm going to set that up, and then I'm going to set it on my cutting mat. And this is the stripology ruler. The stripology ruler has these little indentions where you can cut strips at designated points on the strips. Because our strips are 2.5 inches, we'll line the 0 up against the edge of that salvage, so we make sure that we don't get any of the salvage edge in this. So we'll get that nice and even. And then our first cut is actually going to be the 0, so that will be waist. The 45-inch blade is easiest to use on this stripology ruler. So what you'll do is you just take the ruler and you take your rotary blade and you go right in that little hole for the 0. Then we're going to count over to the 2.5-inch mark. You'll see it has a little square. You'll take your rotary cutter and you'll go right into that 2.5 inches. Then we need to do another 2.5 inches, which is going to be our 5-inch mark, and you'll see there's another little square. So the ruler is designed to give you those cuts already pre-measured without really having to think about it. It's a really handy, awesome tool. So we'll go ahead and cut the 5, and then we're going to cut 7.5, and then we're also going to cut the 10. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to take our stripology ruler off. We'll get rid of this waist because that is waist, and we'll get rid of this waist. And then we're going to turn our ruler to where it is the opposite way. So again, I'm going to set the edge of the 0 right up here because that's going to be my waist. And I'm going to turn and be able to cut from this side. So I place my rotary cutter on the 0, and then I go to the 2.5, and then the 5, and the 7.5. Then I'm going to take off the Stripology ruler. That is waist. And these little pieces here are waist. And there you have your piles of 2.5 inch perfect squares. You'll repeat this process for the red and the white fabrics. All of our 2.5 inch squares ready to get this pieced. So now what we're going to do is we'll just set these all aside. We'll have a pile of the red, a pile of the white, and then a pile of the blue. Then I like to work off of my little mobile ironing mat. This makes it really easy for me to move all around the area. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our TenSisters grid right on top of the portable ironing board. So you'll notice that on the TenSisters grid there are numbers, and again the number side is the wrong side, this is the right or bumpy side, but you'll see it goes from 1 to 9 and then it goes all the way down to 14. Okay, so you should have all the way down to 14. This particular project we are going to use 1 through 9 on both panels, and we're also going to use all the way down to number 13. So what we'll do first is we'll go ahead and pull out our pattern, and this piece is going to be your visual as to how you're going to set up your grid. So the first grid, which is what we're going to work on first, is this section here. This is the second grid. So what we need to do is we have 9 squares across. We're going to start with our blue. So we'll take our blue square and we'll place it right in our number 1. Then we're going to take the white and place it in number 2. We'll take another blue and place it in number 3. We'll take a white and place it in number 4. We'll take a blue and place it in number 5. We'll take a white and place it in number 6. And then we will take a blue, place it in number 7. And then now we're going to take our red and place it in number 8 and number 9. So as you can see here, you have pieces 1 through 9 starting with the blue. So the grid goes just along the side here. Okay, then we're going to do row number 2. So row number 2 starts with a white. so now you'll see that we got the checkerboard pattern all set out, laid out according to the pattern instructions, and we have to press this in place. You could move this down before you ironed it and set your next set of squares. But if you're going to do it that way, then you really should use your glue to put a little dab of glue on the back of each one of these. I don't like to do too many extra steps, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my view and fuse or pressing sheet right on top of the fusible here, and with my hot iron I see that we have two that kind of shifted and one that pulled up. So the only thing I need to do to fix these two that shifted is to kind of nestle them back into the place, and then I can put this back down, and then I can see that they're all pretty square. So then I take my hot iron and I'm going to press right here. We did this section, then we did this section, and we're going to press all of that in place for both panels. So panel 1 and then panel 2. Now we get to the sewing. So according to the easy piecing instructions by TenSisters, which is the maker of this fusible, once you get everything in place and you iron them, then we are ready for the sewing. So the recommendations for the sewing is to sew all of your vertical lines first, which allows you to sew each panel separately. So what you'll do is you fold over here so that it lays just on top of the other. You can faintly see this little dotted line, and that is actually going to be your sew or edge line. So we're going to take this right to our sewing machine and we're going to sew this together. So as you can see, once you start to do your sewing, you're just going to have that 1/4 of an inch. You're going to sew all the way down. As you open it up, you'll notice that all of your pieces are grabbed. So you're just going to repeat this process all the way along the panel. Okay, so we're going to sew our last section of our last panel. Again, we're using a 1/4 of an inch to sew. Now you have panel number 2 completed, so that you can see these are our 2 panels. Okay, so according to your instructions, this easy piecing, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to fuse these 2 pieces together and do a little bit of trimming on the back side. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I just use scissors. There is a little perforated dotted line that you can see that shows through from the back, and so I just go ahead and trim as close to the fabric, this fusible interfacing, because if I was to go ahead and iron these pieces together, then this section of fusible would actually either stick to my iron itself, or it would stick to my ironing table, ironing board, ironing pad, whatever you're using. So this I'll just discard, and then I'll do the same thing along the side, and I'm also going to trim off the end. This is panel number 1. So I'm going to trim here, the edge, and then I'm also going to trim this entire side of panel number 1. Okay, so now that we have panel number 1 all trimmed, all of the fusible sides have been cut off. So we're going to just set that aside and we're going to work on panel piece number 2. Now it's really important, this first side, which is going to be our join side, that we do not trim that off. That's what's going to help us join panel number 2 to panel number 1. But I'm going to go ahead and trim the other 3 sides. Okay, so that's all the trimming we're going to do to piece number 2. Now we're going to join these 2 pieces together. And the way we do that is we're going to lay the piece right next to each other, right on top. I'm going to adjust my ironing board so that you can see here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set the pieces so that it's nestled right next to this other next piece. I already have my iron on and on steam, so I'm going to go ahead and press. Once you get it all pressed and in place, then all we have to do is sew this last vertical line. So I'm going to fold over this piece so that I can sew 1/4 inch away, and you can see that those 2 pieces are fused together. So let's take this to our sewing machine and we'll get this last piece sewn together. Okay, we're coming to the end. And now our 2 panels are joined together. So there you have it. They're all joined. Okay? So the next step is what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over. We're going to make a few snips with our scissors so that we can start to sew it on this, the horizontal lines all the way down. Okay? So we turn it over and we just take our scissors and we're just going to start snipping. So we just snip right here at the 2 little junctures all the way down. Oh, we have to snip it so that when we go to press it, which I'll show you that in the pressing stage, when we go to press it, it's going to let those seams nest nicely. So one will go one way and one will go the other way. So when you're sewing them together, it allows you to have that nice little nest. So by doing this, we're just pre-prepping for our next sewing station, but it also helps it when you go to press it, and I'll show you that in just a second. I'll just get a few more of these little guys snipped and then I'll show you the pressing. When you're doing your snip, you want to also be very careful that you don't go all the way down so that you snip the seam, okay? So what we're going to do is we'll go, I'll take this blue one and I'll have it face me, and I'll have the white one face out in the second row. So I'm just going to take my iron and I will press those 2 sides. So the next one is going to go that opposite way. It really helps if you use steam at this point to really get those areas flat. Okay, and we'll go to the next one. So again, we're going to go towards me, away from me, and towards me. Okay, the next one. And really clipping those little seams allows it to do that really, really nicely. It just wants to lay right in place for you. Okay, we only have 2 more left. So again, towards me, away from me, towards me. Last one, towards me, away, towards me. So now when I go to do my horizontal seams, I'm going to fold over. Again, this is our guide for our 1/4 of an inch. And as you can see, one side is one way and one side is the other way. That's why we're very specific on the ironing, so that these seams can nest perfectly. So we'll take this to the sewing machine and we'll sew all of the horizontal lines. Now this is the very last one. Okay, so now you have all of the vertical seams sewn as well as the horizontal seams. So now all we have left to do is press it, quilt it with a backing, a binding, and batting, and that is your patriotic quilt. Thanks for joining us.